Welcome to the deep dive. You know all those sources you've been meaning to read. We do the reading for you and then pull out all the juiciest bits.
The golden nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to do a deep dive on blue ocean strategy.
Right.
We've got excerpts from a Harvard Business Review article by W. Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne.
Sounds good.
We're going to talk about how companies can carve out these brand new market spaces instead of just battling it out in the same old ones.
Right. Instead of slugging it out in a bloody red ocean of rivals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself with that, but
Yeah.
that's basically the core concept.
It's a good analogy. Think about charting a course in uncharted waters, free from the sharks of competition.
I like that. No sharks.
No sharks.
And you know what really caught my eye in this article? It was the case study of Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, great example.
They completely transformed a struggling industry. How did they do it? I'm really curious to see how they pulled that off.
Cirque du Soleil is a perfect example of what blue ocean strategy can achieve. But before we get into their story, let's back up a little bit, make sure we're all on the same page.
Right.
Let's clarify the core concepts of red oceans and blue oceans.
Okay, yeah. What is the difference?
So picture red oceans as, the industries we see all around us every day. Crowded markets, fierce competition, everyone's fighting over the same customers. It's a constant struggle for survival.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of businesses out there, unfortunately.
Now, blue oceans, on the other hand, are the complete opposite.
Okay.
They're the wide open spaces, the untapped markets, where demand is created rather than sought over.
Oh, I see.
So it's all about finding that space where you can thrive without that constant pressure from competitors.
So blue oceans are about discovering uncharted territory, basically. Does that always have to involve, like, groundbreaking technology?
That's where it gets really interesting. Blue oceans aren't necessarily about inventing something totally brand new.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about reimagining value, innovating your business model, finding fresh ways to serve your customers that nobody else has even thought of.
It's about being different, not just being, like, the first one there, right?
Yeah.
And that brings us back to Cirque du Soleil. How did they manage to, like, just skyrocket in popularity while the traditional circus market was declining?
It really is a masterclass in blue ocean strategy. Their success, instead of trying to just, outdo the traditional circuses,
Right.
Cirque du Soleil made them irrelevant
Wow.
by creating a whole new experience. They didn't just target those existing circus goers.
Right.
They attracted an entirely new audience.
It's like they took the circus and turned it into this, like, high-end spectacle.
Exactly. They tapped into the desires of people who loved the theater,
Right.
people who enjoyed the opera, the ballet.
Right.
They brought them the magic of the circus, but they elevated it with artistry, sophistication.
They raised the bar, for sure.
They did.
But I remember reading also how they made some, like, really strategic cost cuts, too. Like, didn't they get rid of the animal acts?
You're absolutely right. Cirque du Soleil's brilliance was finding ways to increase value for the customer while simultaneously lowering their costs. Removing the animal acts not only, addresses a lot of ethical concerns nowadays, but think about it.
Right.
It saved them a fortune on animal care, training, transportation.
Yeah, elephants are not cheap, I'm sure.
No, they're not.
And wasn't there something about the three-ring setup? Like, they got rid of that, too, right?
They did, and it was a really smart move.
Okay.
Because the three rings, actually, it created a fragmented experience for the audience.
Oh, okay.
You're constantly shifting your focus, right? Adds complexity, unnecessary costs, by focusing on a single stage.
Right.
Cirque du Soleil created a much more captivating performance
Oh, I see.
and streamlined their operations at the same time.
So they removed the distractions and then intensified the impact of, like, the core elements.
Yeah, exactly.
But they didn't completely abandon all the traditional aspects.
Oh, absolutely not. They understood. They recognized what they call the lasting allure of the traditional circus.
Okay.
The clowns,
Right.
the big top, and of course the acrobats. But instead of just keeping them the same, they elevated these elements.
Right.
The clowns became more sophisticated.
Right.
The tent was transformed into this really luxurious space.
Oh, wow.
And the acrobats, they were infused with artistry and grace. It was a whole other level.
It's a clever strategy. Innovating, but still honoring that tradition.
Yeah.
So by, eliminating, reducing, and raising these different elements, Cirque du Soleil managed to achieve both differentiation and lower costs.
They did.
It really does challenge that conventional thinking about strategy, doesn't it?
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Blue Ocean strategy rejects this idea that you have to choose between low cost and differentiation. The companies that successfully create blue oceans, they aim for both.
How do you actually achieve both? That seems, it seems like a very difficult thing to do.
Well, that's where strategic moves come in.
Okay.
These are deliberate actions, decisions that actually reshape the market landscape.
Okay.
Cirque du Soleil's removal of the animal acts, their single-stage focus,
Yeah.
including those theatrical elements, these were all strategic moves that allowed them to create their blue ocean.
So strategic moves are kind of like these game-changing actions that a company can take.
Absolutely.
And Cirque du Soleil is not the only company that's done this, right? Weren't there some other examples in the article?
Definitely, yeah. The authors highlight some companies like, for instance, Compaq.
Okay.
Remember them back in the 1990s? They actually turned their entire business around with their PC servers. They created a blue ocean by offering a product that was both more powerful and cheaper than those existing mini computers everybody was using.
So this strategy is not just for, startups or like niche markets.
Right.
Even like huge companies, established companies can create blue oceans.
That's exactly.
That's pretty inspiring. But it kind of makes you wonder, if it's such a powerful strategy, why isn't everybody doing it?
Well, it's not as simple as it might seem at first glance. There are these inherent barriers that protect those successful blue ocean creators from imitation.
Okay.
For example, there's the rapid scale economies that they achieve.
Okay.
Take Walmart, for instance. Their massive buying power allows them to keep prices incredibly low, making it extremely difficult for competitors to match them.
Right. It's like trying to compete with Amazon. It's good luck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the power of that brand buzz, that customer loyalty that they build. When a company offers a significant leap in value, like Cirque du Soleil did,
Right.
they cultivate this devoted following that's really hard to sway.
I can imagine, like, if you're a hardcore Cirque du Soleil fan,
Yeah,
good luck getting them to go back to a regular circus.
exactly. The authors even talk about how Microsoft, with all their resources, struggled to displace Intuit's Quicken software. They just couldn't replicate that loyalty that Intuit had already built.
Interesting. So there's these kind of like economic and cognitive barriers that protect the blue oceans once they're created.
Exactly. It's a combination of factors.
Okay, well, before we get too deep into these modern examples,
Yeah.
I want to revisit that Henry Ford analogy.
Yes.
Because he was kind of like a pioneer of this way back in the early 1900s, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Model T is, the classic example of blue ocean strategy in action. Back then, the auto industry was a red ocean.
Okay.
It was all about expensive, unreliable luxury cars for the wealthy.
Right.
But Henry Ford, he envisioned something completely different.
He really was a disruptor, just like Cirque du Soleil, really.
He was.
Like, he didn't just build a slightly better horse-drawn carriage. He created a car for everyday use, for the masses.
Exactly. And he focused on reliability, affordability, practicality,
Yeah.
Making cars as accessible as horse-drawn carriages were at the time. And of course, there was his revolutionary assembly line, which drastically cut production costs, made mass production possible.
The Model T wasn't just a new car, it was a whole paradigm shift in transportation.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And it illustrates perfectly how blue ocean strategy can redefine an entire industry
Yeah.
and make what seemed impossible totally possible.
So it really shows how one innovation, like, it can just have this huge ripple effect across an entire industry.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is creating a blue ocean, it's not like a one-time event.
Right.
Companies can create multiple blue oceans over time.
Oh, okay. So it's not like you find your blue ocean and then you're, like, set for life. You need to constantly be innovating and adapting.
Exactly. The business world's always changing.
Yeah.
What might be a blue ocean today could easily become a crowded red ocean tomorrow.
Right.
So successful companies, they need to constantly be on the lookout for new opportunities, new ways to create value.
They need to keep swimming to stay ahead of the current, I guess.
Precisely.
Yeah. That's what makes blue ocean strategy so challenging, but also so rewarding.
So thinking about the bigger picture here,
Yeah.
what does all this mean for businesses today? Like for someone listening right now who's, maybe running their own small business or just starting out, how can they use this knowledge?
It means, really, we need to shift our perspective. Instead of simply trying to, outmaneuver the competition in these existing markets, we need to look for opportunities to create entirely new spaces.
That sounds great in theory, but where do you even begin with that?
Well, the authors actually offer a really practical framework for approaching this.
Okay.
They call it the 4 actions framework.
Okay. I like frameworks. Break it down for me.
All right. So it starts by asking, what factors that our industry takes for granted can we eliminate? Just like Cirque du Soleil got rid of those animal acts, the 3 rings.
Makes sense. What's the next step?
Then you ask, which factors should be reduced well below the industry standard?
Okay.
This might involve simplifying your product, streamlining a process. Right.
Maybe even cutting certain features to lower costs.
So far, it's all about like stripping things away.
Right.
What about the adding value part?
That's where the next 2 actions come in.
Mm-hmm.
So then you ask yourself, which factors should be raised well above the industry standard?
Okay.
This is about pinpointing those areas where you can offer that exceptional value
Right.
that customers are going to be willing to pay for.
Makes sense. And finally.
The last action is really about true innovation.
Okay.
Which factors should be created that the industry has never offered?
Wow.
This is about bringing something totally new to the table.
It's a combination of like letting go of the old and embracing the new, like completely reimagining what's possible.
Exactly.
That's pretty inspiring.
It is inspiring. And the key takeaway here is that businesses, they're not trapped
Right.
by those existing market conditions.
Mhm.
They have the power to shape their own destinies.
It's easy to get like caught up in the excitement of these, like blue ocean success stories like Cirque du Soleil, Henry Ford.
Sure.
But it can't always be smooth sailing, right? There must be like challenges, risks involved too.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Creating a blue ocean, it's not without its difficulties.
Right.
First and foremost, it demands a major shift in mindset.
Okay.
Companies need to be willing to challenge the status quo, think outside the box,
Right.
and really embrace uncertainty.
It's like taking a leap of faith into the unknown.
It is.
What other challenges come to mind?
Well, there's always the risk of failure.
Yeah.
Not every attempt to create a blue ocean is going to be successful.
Right.
Companies might misjudge the market, struggle to execute their strategy effectively.
So it's a high stakes game. What separates the winners then from those who just like end up back in the red ocean?
I think it boils down to a few critical factors.
Okay.
First, you need a deep understanding of your customers' needs and values.
Yeah.
You really need to grasp what they want, even if they can't articulate it themselves.
It's about uncovering those like unmet needs, those hidden desires.
Exactly. The second factor is you need a strong value proposition.
Yeah.
Your offering, it needs to be compelling. Offer that significant leap in value compared to what's already out there.
It can't just be a slightly improved version of something else.
And no.
It's got to be a game changer.
Exactly. And finally, you need flawless execution.
Okay.
You got to deliver on your promises, be able to scale your business quickly and efficiently.
So it's a combination of vision, innovation, and like operational excellence.
All of that.
A tall order, but the potential rewards are huge.
They are. The companies that successfully create those blue oceans,
Yeah.
they often enjoy, high growth, strong profitability,
Right.
and a sustainable competitive advantage.
Yeah, not to mention they get to like make history, just like Cirque du Soleil and Henry Ford.
Exactly.
We've covered a lot of ground here in this deep dive into blue ocean strategy.
We have.
From understanding the difference between those red and blue oceans to exploring those powerful strategic moves. But what about the practical application? How can, like our listener who might be running a small business or just starting out, how can they actually use this knowledge?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, Kim and Mauborgne, they actually offer a very practical tool in their book
Okay.
for putting blue ocean strategy into action. It's called the Strategy Canvas.
The strategy canvas, what is that?
It's a visual framework
Okay.
that helps you to map out the competitive landscape
Okay.
and identify those opportunities for differentiation.
So it's like a blueprint for finding your blue ocean. It's like a blueprint for finding your blue ocean.
Exactly. It's a visual blueprint.
Yeah.
The Strategy Canvas is all about visualizing, where the competition is currently focused.
Right.
And then more importantly, where there might be some open water.
Okay.
It starts with identifying the key factors that your industry competes on.
So for like the circus industry, that might be things like animal acts,
Yeah.
star performers, ticket prices.
Right.
The venue, maybe things like concessions, souvenirs, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. You plot those factors on one axis of the canvas,
Okay.
and then on the other axis, you indicate the level of offering that each competitor provides for those factors.
Okay.
So you literally draw these curves representing each competitor,
Right.
highlighting how they invest in each of those factors.
So like for a traditional circus, their curve might be really high on animal acts and star performers,
Right.
but then moderate on venue and concessions, and
Yeah.
maybe lower on things like originality or the sophistication of the show.
That's right. And then you would draw a Cirque du Soleil's curve, which
Right.
would look completely different.
Yeah.
High on things like theme music dance artistry,
Right.
lower on animal acts and star performers, but maybe still high on venue and that overall experience.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how this visual representation can be so powerful. You can literally see the differences in their strategic focus.
Exactly. And it helps you to answer those key questions we talked about earlier.
Right.
What to eliminate, what to reduce, what to raise, what to create.
Yeah.
By looking at where the competition is all clustered together,
Right.
you can start to identify those opportunities to break away.
For example, Cirque du Soleil, they saw that everybody else was investing heavily in animal acts and star performers.
Yeah.
But nobody was really focusing on creating that thematic, theatrical experience.
Right.
And that's their blue ocean.
You do that. The strategy canvas, it helps you to visualize those white spaces, those areas where you can potentially create new value
Okay.
and make the competition irrelevant.
So this tool, it's not just about finding a niche.
No.
It's about redefining the entire playing field.
Absolutely. It's about creating a new game with new rules.
Right.
A game where you have the competitive advantage because you're the only one playing it.
Okay, I'm definitely sold on the strategy canvas. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
It's visual, it's practical, it forces you to think strategically. But let's be realistic here. Creating a blue ocean, even with a handy tool like this,
Yeah.
it's still a pretty daunting task.
Sure.
What advice would you give to someone who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this?
Well, first of all, I'd say don't let the scale of the idea intimidate you.
Okay,
Remember, blue oceans are created by strategic moves,
right.
and those moves can be big or small.
So you don't have to like reinvent the wheel necessarily to create a blue ocean.
Not at all. Sometimes a small focus change can
Yeah.
have a huge ripple effect
yeah.
and create a significant shift in the market.
That's reassuring. Any other words of wisdom for our aspiring blue ocean creators out there?
I'd say embrace the iterative process.
Okay.
Don't expect to come up with the perfect blue ocean strategy overnight.
Right.
It's a journey of exploration, experimentation, and refinement.
So it's like testing the waters,
Yeah.
adjusting your course, and just keep swimming towards that open horizon.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to fail. You know, some of the most successful blue ocean creations came about after a few false starts.
Yeah, failure is just a stepping stone to success.
It is.
Or maybe a stepping stone to a different part of the blue ocean.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And remember, the beauty of blue ocean strategy
Yeah.
is that it's not just about winning in the marketplace.
Right.
It's about creating something new, something valuable, something that benefits both your business and your customers.
I love that. It's about making a positive impact while also achieving success. It's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into blue ocean strategy.
We have.
From understanding the difference between red oceans and blue oceans,
Right.
to exploring the power of strategic moves and visualizing our own path with that strategy canvas.
It's a great framework.
It is. We've seen how companies like Cirque du Soleil and Henry Ford
Yeah.
defied industry norms and created these whole new markets
They did.
by offering that leap in value for their customers.
It's spot.
It really is. So here's a final thought-provoking question to leave you with.
Okay.
Could your business benefit from creating a blue ocean? What existing elements could you eliminate, reduce, raise, or create to achieve that? Maybe your blue ocean is closer than you think?
It might be.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep swimming towards those uncharted waters.